we're here with a student, Angel, and a former alum, José, also representatives, to talk about life in the Netherlands. So I know we get a lot of questions from students often as counselors about what it's actually like to study there, especially as a student from Latin America, because it can be like such a different context. And so we're here to talk a little bit about the culture shock, about what the experience is like in college, and we're so happy that we get to talk to a current student too, so and former alum. So um, yeah, so we actually wanted to start just with like a really broad question, but it's Angel, why did you want to study in the Netherlands? So what really drew you? How did you choose the Netherlands out of, so many countries in the world?
How the
Yeah.
Netherlands? There's many layers to this story. To preface this, long story short, I was studying in Taiwan. I did a year of exchange there. And while I was there, I managed to meet a girl who was very beautiful, and she was from the Netherlands. She is now my girlfriend. And eventually, after discussing, I really didn't want to keep studying in Mexico because while I love the country and it's my heritage and whatever, I thought of many professional opportunities to be found somewhere else. And the opportunity kind of came through that she was like, "Hey, I need a new roommate, live in Amsterdam." I was like, "Oh, ho, ho." And yeah, well, that was the main
Wow.
motivation.
Oh my gosh, it's a whole love story like behind this.
Yeah, right. I should sell this to Netflix. No, I'm kidding.
Wow. And were you nervous at all about moving to a
Well,
different
you know
country?
what? I've always found myself liking challenges, liking seeking discomfort. The more difficult, the more different, the more whatever, it's the more fun. So when it came to move transcontinentally, I was like, yo, I'm in.
Oh,
So yeah.
amazing. And for both of you, how did you decide what university to study in, and why did you choose the Amsterdam School of International Business? Why did you choose Amsterdam? What was,
Perfect.
I
yeah.
mean,
Okay,
for
let's
you,
do
it seems like it was a roommate choice. But my question too is, I mean, had you ever been to Amsterdam before?
Actually, yeah, I had visited Amsterdam before already on a summer, and I visited it, of course, as a tourist. You go do tourist things. However, my whole experience in the Netherlands in general was pretty great, considering. I mean, society by itself is pretty good. It's a first world country. It's a nice place to live in. So I kind of fell in love with it since then, and it was cool. Why did I choose this school? Of course, she helped me because I didn't know much about Dutch schools, but I've always seen myself as someone who's very into the business area. So I already kind of knew I wanted international business. Like disregarding where I studied, I was probably going to study international business anyways, which is, by the way, what I study. And yeah, why did we choose applied sciences instead of the other thing, the research? I don't know how it's called, but university. Applied sciences I think fits me more because I'm a person that's more into the work. Like I wouldn't really get much from just learning by myself and reading 3,000 pages. I'm more into doing little projects, doing activities together with people, doing actually putting in the work. That's more what I'm into. That helps me personally to learn more. However, I think they're both great options, and I couldn't vouch for which one's better. I really truly believe it's dependent on who you are. But yeah, that's the main.
That's really interesting. And Jose, what about you? How did you choose your university? What was that process like? Yeah.
Right, so I'm a Dutch student. I grew up in the Netherlands, so for me it was a bit different. But yeah, I would like to very much echo what Angel said. There are two types of universities, and it's definitely not the case that one is better than the other. They're equal. It's just that the focus is different, and I very much enjoy learning in a hands-on manner. So very much working on projects, and really making your hands dirty, so to speak. So that's why I decided to go to University of Applied Sciences. And then because I wanted to study internationally, and have an international experience out of because studying international business is possible at different universities in the Netherlands. It's quite a common program. But what makes Amsterdam stand out of the crowd, in my opinion, is that Amsterdam is one of the most international cities in the Netherlands. And yeah, when I walked into the building for an open day, I just immediately felt at home. I really liked the faculty, current students. I also met some alum, and it was a really great experience overall. And I felt like this is the place where I'm supposed to be.
And are you
Um,
from Amsterdam originally?
No, I'm from the countryside, which is like 1.5 hours from Amsterdam. So even for me, of course, it wasn't as big of a difference as for Angel coming from abroad, but even for me, like coming from the countryside and going to the capital, was quite a change.
Oh, I
So
can
how did
imagine.
that work for you, both of you, in terms of getting set up, of integrating as far as housing goes? I mean, Angel, it sounds like you already had your connection with your girlfriend there, so maybe things are easier. But I mean, what is it like as far as support in getting set up outside of academics?
Well, if is of my belief that, to be honest, finding places to live in Amsterdam, because you could also choose to live somewhere else, but if you're studying in Amsterdam, living in Amsterdam may be the smartest thing to do. And I've heard it's pretty difficult. To be honest, I was in a very lucky position where I could get access to an apartment pretty easy. Other than that, setting up the life, it's most of all cultural differences, I would say, like getting a bicycle and biking and getting wet because it rains all the time, and little things like that. That's mainly the hard work, but it can be done. It can be done.
I mean, do you remember your initial culture shock? Like, was it, just kind of going for, let me go get a bike now, let me get a raincoat now, no, I need another umbrella now? Or how was that transition? Like, how long do you think it took you to feel really comfortable?
To feel very comfortable, it did take a while, because especially I was very used to, in Mexico, it's pretty common for people to drive everywhere because there's a lot of roads. There is getting a car. There's not as many taxis as here. So I would say it's pretty fair that many people have a car. So the idea of all of a sudden getting wet and getting the bike, it did take me like a few months to just be cool with it. But to be fair, once you rationalize it, it's the smartest thing to have a bike in Amsterdam. You would never want a car here. It's inconvenient to park and to drive, and you have to pay a lot of money just to own it, even without moving it. So yeah, I kind of made peace with the idea. Plus, my bike is beautiful. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, like a few months, I would say.
Absolutely. Are there other things, I mean, just thinking about language or the university or your life in Amsterdam that you had to adapt to? That's an
That I had
interesting,
to adapt to.
apart from the, biking in the rain.
You know what is something I had to adapt to that is very random. I had to adapt to the eating schedule in the Netherlands. It's different than the eating schedule in Mexico. In Mexico,
Oh,
we eat dinner
mm.
at 8, 9, I don't know. And here they eat dinner at 6. Also, lunch is at 12. Lunch in Mexico is at 2. So, that was a small change, but that did take a while to get used to. And other than that, the language, of course, speaking English, maybe something that's cool of Amsterdam is that everyone speaks English. Every person. There's been only one time in my life that no one spoke English, and it was very random. But that's something I like of here a lot, and something that makes Amsterdam stand out. Getting away with speaking English, it's pretty nice. So yeah, that's mainly a big thing, I think.
So
That's
this, I think, is
amazing.
common with Alina's students too, but I have students who are a little bit nervous because they've only studied English at school, and it'd be kind of their first time living abroad and speaking English, and they don't feel completely confident yet. I mean, what's kind of your take on that, as far as what sort of personality you have to have and skills you have to have in order to adapt easily?
I feel like many people, when they are trying to practice English, they feel kind of ashamed a little bit because they maybe have an accent. But what they're not realizing is that it's impressive to speak more than one language. It's impressive the fact that even if you have a terrible accent, that you're able to create sentences, to create communication with people across the world. So I would say that you need the personality of trial and error. You need to try, even if you have an accent, even if you fail, even if you do whatever. Keep on trying. Keep on. Practice makes perfect. That's maybe the key to the success in the communication part.
And
Oh, I
then you were
love
also
that
talking
approach.
about food too. And for me, like touching base, especially with people who have all moved to their new homes in different countries. And I hope my signal isn't cutting out right now. But just talking about food in general, like, is it more common to eat in, to eat out? Like when you're talking about the different schedules that you're following to, what is it like? Were there any really big differences in food that you were like, wait, this is totally not for me? Or I don't know. I mean, my tortillas, like, what were you thinking? Did you find the great stroop waffle? If we go back to the title of this webinar.
The greatest stroop waffle. No, to be honest, I'm big time. Of course, Mexico, we have a lot of differences in food. So I kind of did miss it. Nonetheless, it's pretty okay to eat the food here, the food of that the Netherlands has to offer, especially Amsterdam, because it's full of people from all around the world. There's options for everything. So if one day I do miss my tortillas, I can always find them, and that's never a huge problem. Maybe my biggest issue was that I wasn't much of a cook. So back in Mexico, I used to eat most of the time outside, because eating outside it's not so bad. But here, eating outside costs like an eye or a kidney. It's expensive. So I had to, cook in the house. But there's this service called HelloFresh. They did not sponsor this meeting, but they should. And HelloFresh is amazing. They have, it's just a little box, has food, has instructions. Even a baby could do it. So that definitely has saved my life, I think.
Wow, sounds amazing. Actually, that kind of leads into I have a question about budget. So I have
Yeah.
some students who, have limited funding, but they do want to live in or might be interested in the Netherlands or living in another country. What was it like for you to make a budget? How much do things cost approximately? I know it's hard to give like specific numbers, but your
We can do
apartment,
we can do kind
food.
of specific numbers, and here's why. Because when I had to get my visa, this was a requirement actually. I needed to have, coming from not the EU, our requirement is that you need to have enough money, providing that you don't get a job, so that you can survive for like a year. I think the estimation, if I'm not mistaken, was 900 euros a month in average you needed to survive. So they did ask me, like, a requirement was a bank account with 900 euros times 12 months or something like that. That was the estimation. And it's kind of accurate. Of course, budgets may be adjusted. Depends if you want to eat in a restaurant outside every day or buy new clothes every day, then yeah, of course you're not gonna cut it. But if you're generous, yeah, it's pretty okay. Most of it, I think, goes in rent. In Amsterdam, renting is a huge expense. You pay 500-600 euros for a 8 square meter apartment, but well, that's the student life. I think it's one of those things.
Oh
And
no, that
Jose,
makes
was that
sense.
your experience as well? I mean, how was it for you? Because you didn't commute, right? You got an apartment when you moved
Yeah,
to
that's
Amsterdam?
correct. So when I was doing my bachelor's, I decided to commute. Yeah, so for me it was different, and also of course because I'm Dutch, I was just used to the Dutch price levels. Yeah, so for me, to it really hit me when I moved to Madrid for my exchange semester, and when I moved to Newcastle for my master's to UK. That's when it hit me that Amsterdam is quite expensive. But until that moment, I didn't really realize that. Well, Angel, just to touch upon, because you explained, for example, visa, which was very important for non-EU students. How did you find that process? Like, did you get any assistance along the way, or was it all up to you to figure it out? Like, what was it like?
I think in order to answer your question, I also have to touch on the whole process of enrolling into school, because they kind of go hand by hand. Because at the moment of enrolling in school, you're kind of already working on your visa papers. I encountered some issues along the way regarding, well, I think I'll say it from the beginning. In order to enroll to the program, as you guys probably know, but probably someone out here doesn't know, you have to first I enrolled in StudyLink, I think, and then they start asking you for things. They start asking you for, in my case, my papers providing that I finished high school, uh, a few other things like where did I live and copies of my passport and whatever. And after school actually accepts everything, and even a little after, you still have to pay for school fully. Like I have to pay for the full year. Only then did school actually give me the papers I needed to go request my visa. But once they do that, it's pretty okay because they send you a letter that comes from the Hague, like it comes from the government, so it's everything's prepared, and then you just have to show up to. Well, in my experience, I just showed up to the embassy of the Netherlands in Mexico. Of course, make an appointment. There was COVID, so it was kind of unfortunate timing, but that was kind of quick actually. I just had to show up with the letter school gave to me and my passport and whatever, and then they did my visa pretty quick. And I think took 2 weeks. Had to give them a DHL envelope so they would send it back to where I live because the embassy of the Netherlands is in Mexico City, and I don't live in Mexico City. I live in a city called Puebla, so that was a little far away. So that was okay. They sent it to me, so I didn't have to go twice, which I appreciate. But the visa process itself is not as complicated. It's mainly the school part that is kind of at least in my experience, it got complicated. Got a little delayed because in Mexico, they give you your high school diplomas. They take a while. They don't give them right after you graduate. They give them until September, actually. And school wanted it in July or in June. So I was like, hey, school, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to give it to you guys. There was a little bit of uncertainty there that they were like, hey, if you cannot give it, you cannot study. And I was like, oh, please, come on. I'm from Mexico. It happens to everyone. So after making some phone calls and keeping it all together, then school was like, yeah, of course, we understand. And they were cool about it. But it was a little bit of a challenging process, but it was done. It was done.
Wow, that's a good thing to keep in mind, like the timing of the applications. Are there any other tips that you have for students applying? Well, I guess you had a very specific application process for this school, but in general with the application process, anything to keep in mind or yeah.
I think something very important is, or that I would advise to a lot of people, is to look for scholarships. Looking for a scholarship is the best thing you can do. Really, tuition is very expensive for people outside of the EU. It gets very complicated. For Mexico in particular, there's a few scholarships that only go to Mexico, so you don't even compete with that many people. I believe there's something called the Orange Tulip Scholarship. There is a few other things. There's an institution called Nuffic. I don't know how you pronounce it, but they're like, they take care of people that want to go study in the Netherlands. They offer a lot of programs that are also in English, because when you're looking at universities or whatever, you have to make sure that it's, unless you know Dutch, but I would appreciate studying in English, which I did. And yeah, that's big part, because you're looking for scholarships, and yeah, timing is very important. I also got a scholarship. I got the Holland scholarship, is called, and that was a scholarship that was granted. They give you back a little bit of money after you pass the first semester. And to apply for that, I needed to apply since December, and school was starting in August. That was like half a year before. So indeed, as you were saying, taking time, I would start the whole process a whole year before, because otherwise you might be long time for meeting deadlines, meeting whatever. That's a very important step, taking your time.
That's
Well,
good advice.
money is such a big topic. Jose, if you want to chime in on any of this too, I think something that's also really good to keep in mind for whoever's watching this too, if you are dual citizen, like if you do have EU citizenship, but you've lived your whole life outside of the EU, how does that also work?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So if you're holding EU citizenship, I would always suggest apply with your EU citizenship. First of all, it's going to save loads of money on tuition fees. And second of all, it's going to be easier for you because you wouldn't need a visa and that type of stuff. So yeah, if you're holding dual nationality, it basically means that it's up to you to decide with whichever nationality you're going to apply with, which, yeah, it goes without saying, if you're holding an EU one, please apply with your EU one. And yeah, I just would like to echo what Angel said, because I really think it's important that you start in time. Take your time to do proper research about scholarships. Take your time also for applications, for your visa to be processed. So in the Netherlands, well, at least at our university, but it applies to most of the programs in the Netherlands, on the 1st of May, applications open, but the application portal itself, applications close on the 1st of May, but the application portal opens just on the 1st of October, prior to September intake. And I'm not sure how it goes with other universities, but at our universities, all the applications are being assessed on an unrolling basis, meaning the sooner you apply, the less applicants there will be, which means the quicker your application will be processed. So even if you're not entirely sure yet, I would say just apply, make sure that you get your offer in, so the ball keeps on rolling, and then you're much more relaxed.
Very nice.
And then awesome. I have another question for Jose this time. So how does it work when you're local, right? And you are thinking of, do I study in Dutch or do I study in English? Does it really wholeheartedly depend on the major and what your goals are? Or how do you make that choice of what language you're going to study in?
Right. Well, so in the Netherlands, studying business, whether in Dutch or in English, doesn't really matter. It's actually quite common. Loads of students decide to study in English, study business. But then, of course, it comes down to the fact whether you would like to study in English or in Dutch. I would say really keep in mind, what is it that you would like to get out of it? If you really are interested in international career, please opt for the English one. That's why I did. Because I really wanted to study abroad for 1 semester. I want to work internationally. etc., etc. So that's why I decided to go for the English one. Yeah, and also meeting different cultures. Our classrooms are quite international. I remember when I was in my first year, I had friends from all over the world, and it was just a really different experience.
That's
Yeah, because I think it's
wonderful.
always good to have an idea of why, somebody tends to stay from, near where they were raised, and just kind of like what the makeup is like. So that way, you can kind of understand where are they also coming from. Is it just the school in general? What your classmates are like, especially when they're local. Awesome.
I'm curious with languages too. I know you mentioned, Angel, that everyone in Amsterdam speaks English, and I was wondering if it's similar in other cities in the Netherlands. Like with Utrecht, also everyone speaks English. Like what's the I don't know if you guys have a sense of that.
I feel your question. I think in my experience so far from what I've encountered, many people at least understand it. I think that's safe to say. However, the more in the outskirts, in the outside you are, then maybe you're less likely to encounter. You could find maybe someone that's from an older generation, and perhaps their English might not be as sufficient. But I would even dare to say it's safe to say that many people, like 90% or something of the new generation, speaks English, which is fantastic in my opinion. I think you can many places get away with it. As I said, even if they don't speak it, they might as well understand it. So then
If
that's
you
okay.
can't find something in the supermarket, or you need to get your bike repaired, or you're ordering something out, or I don't know, you're on the bus. I no, we're not on a bus. We're only on bicycles at this point. I don't even know.
On a
So
bicycle.
it's totally accepted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
And what about speaking Spanish?
Ooh, speaking Spanish is an interesting topic, and I would like to touch on that because I was very surprised to find many Latino individuals in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam especially. I found also a lot of the population that I've encountered that speak Spanish, they come from República Dominicana, that I was not as familiar with, but I've encountered a lot of people that they do speak Spanish. It's of course big differences in Spanish, or little differences. Spanish from Mexico versus Spanish from Spain versus Spanish from Argentina. It's all the same. We understand each other, just some slang here and there. But I don't think you could get away with speaking Spanish, but you could maybe survive. Like you could maybe find a place to eat or someone that could help you with things. But I'm not so sure if in the Albert Heijn they would speak Spanish with you. You know what I'm saying?
And then that's actually a really good follow-up question that I have. Like, where are you meeting people? Is it, from school? Is it because you got your own gym membership? Is it people in your building? Like, I think that's a lot of, that's what's happening to a lot of students who just moved abroad right now, and they're trying to meet other people and they haven't really figured it out. And COVID times are also a little bit weird. Just, what's your experience been?
In my experience, I'm a very social guy. I try to make friends with everyone I know. So in school, particularly, I managed to build a team of people like for school projects that were also kind of cool. Like we also hang out. We also knew we had similar interests. So it was easy for me to make friends surrounding school. And then all of a sudden that leads to hanging out with them. Then you're hanging out with people from other classes. Then little by little, that's how you expand. But I think, yeah, the first step and a very important step is finding a circle or a community that you might be tight with in school, like classmates and stuff. Be social, say hello, follow each other on Instagram. If you're watching this, follow me on Instagram. But yeah.
And you too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if I may add to that, I think that's a very good point that you make. Finding your community is extremely important. Of course, you can find it at school, but they're also outside of school. Amsterdam is quite a lively city. So you can find different communities. For example, let's say, I don't know, you're religious, for example, then that's also a way of finding a community, finding a home in Amsterdam. Or let's say you are very much into football and you would like to join a sports team. With other students from other universities, then you can join a football team and then you can compete against other cities. So yeah, finding your circle and the type of community that suits you the best is definitely a good way to start.
And going back to your college days, did you go to college with anybody that you knew from your town, or how did you start making your initial friendship circles? Was it all through school?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, partially. It was the closest friends that I met was actually at school. We were just classmates, and then from the first year on, we decided to go out once, and then we went out another time, and then we went on a trip together, etc., etc. I went out for dinners. So that was part of it, but I also joined a student society, which I also got quite involved in. So I met some other people and made some friends from other years as well, above me but also below me. So yeah, I just made sure to get myself involved in as many activities as I could, and just to make as many friends as I could. Or for example, to work at open days, or stuff like that, when once again you're also meeting other students from outside of your class. So yeah, that's how I tackled it.
Jumping off that with activities, I'm curious kind of what other activities, are there activities happening like around classes or like kind of on campus around the school? What do you do with your free time? You know, what kind of things are available to do? Yeah.
Do us go to me?
Go for
Sure. Whoever wants to, you guys can both take it.
You know what? I think that answer, it's interesting because last year I'm in second year of school, you know, and on first year it was COVID times, so there was not many things we could do. Everything was on Zoom, everything was online. But now this year it's a whole different story. This year so far we've had, I think, 2 or 3 times that we meet outside of school to do things, like even with classes. I'm in an elective, we met outside. There's also one time there was like an integration week activity thingy, and we met all in like a sports center. And yeah, in the end, school kind of tries to organize little events, little things. I think it's very important, of course, if you're coming from somewhere else, to try and participate in it. It's also a cool opportunity. It's cool. It's nice that school organizes this for you. You know, you get to meet new people, get to hang out, and yeah, it's overall pretty fun. I think school does a good job at that.
Cool.
And Jose, do you want to give Angel a test and ask him how his Dutch is?
Sure, let's do it. We're going to put him on the spot a bit, so let's see how he's going to react. So, Angel, welke dag is het vandaag?
Vandaag is woensdag.
Ja, perfect. I can testify and confirm that Angel speaks Dutch fluently. Well done.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
A plus.
I'm happy to
Oh
announce
my
that I'm
gosh.
currently in Dutch 3, and yeah, it's a situation. That's also something important.
Amazing.
Although you can get away with speaking English, I feel like if you move somewhere, it's only fair and ethical to learn the language from there. You know, like I do aspire to eventually be fluent in Dutch, but as you guys may know, it's quite a difficult language. It is. But
Yeah,
that's
I
okay.
can imagine.
School offers actually an elective of Dutch. I've taken Dutch 1, 2, and 3, and it's quite
Oh.
useful. But I don't practice as much. I really should. And yeah.
Oh my gosh. Actually,
you
now that you
s-
mentioned classes. Oh no, go for it, Chris.
No, I was just curious. Like, did you study any Dutch before you left?
Not at all. But actually, I have something I can show you guys. You'll think this is pretty funny. Give me a second. It's here. It's a little gift I got. This is a book for kids, and it's like Spanish to Dutch. So it shows little pictures, like the
Wow,
beach,
that's so cool.
cinema, stuff like that. This is for babies. This
love
works
it.
amazing. 'Cause, you know, you're learning a new language. You're kind of like a baby. You know, you're learning to speak. So it's fantastic. It is.
Do you bring that out with you? I would love that.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Carry it everywhere. Take it out to transit
Yeah.
things.
Before I encounter something, I read the book and I'm like, el tambor, the trommel. And then I'm kidding, but I should.
That's amazing. I was kind of curious, Angel, now that you mentioned some classes, I was curious if your classes are more like kind of lectures or are there more like small classes, kind of seminar style? Yeah, what are your classes like? Yeah.
I think for the degree I'm studying, like in international business, it's dependent on the course. So, for example, last year I took financial management, and financial management is kind of accounting. And that got divided in one class being a lecture, meaning that the teacher would explain with their slides and they would teach the concepts. And then after that, we had a lesson of practice, and then we actually do something ourselves. It really is dependent on the course and a bunch of external factors, but overall, I think a little bit of both. It's a good mix of both, a healthy
Wow.
mix.
Very cool. Have you felt yeah, in terms of like how challenging, do you feel like school has been kind of competitive and very difficult, or is it something that you adapted to right away, like academically? Yeah.
I do think it's challenging. Yeah. I think it's, especially if there's anyone else in Latin America listening to this, it's hard. It's way harder than than school there, but it's possible. Other people can do it, so can you. So it's one of those things. But yeah, it is indeed kind of challenging. They're very strict with deadlines. Sometimes there's too much schoolwork in the same week, so then you're all stressed making projects and making exams and making this. But if you get yourself with a good team of people and with this, because most of the projects are in team. It's rarely that you have to do something individually, unless it's of course a test or whatever. But yeah, having a good team that doesn't slack is important to not fail and to pass in your life. But yeah,
Wow. It sounds so
And
hands-on, like so project-based. Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's very interesting with the projects. This week, actually, before I came here, I was just telling you there was a project. We were making a magazine for English class, and that's like the little project. And you do that also with other people, and we write articles and we do presentations and we do whatever. But then it's cool because you can make a team and take advantage of the multicultural experience that different individuals may have, and take good advantage of that, and then make your pieces of content even a little more fun, a little more dynamic. In the end, you yourself, by working with other people, you learn. So it's just cool. It's a cool experience. That's maybe a plus that school doesn't advertise, but they should. The multicultural knowledge that you gain is immaculate. It's very nice.
I'm totally gonna have to invite you to do a student takeover if you want to do that. I think that would be so fun. Like, I just want to walk through your day and see the projects and things that you're doing.
Count with me. Count
Wow. That would be amazing.
would be fun.
That'd be amazing. And actually,
And why
Angel,
don't you?
oh no, go ahead.
No, well, I just keep on looking at what you have in the background, and I know we have the insider scoop because if you follow Angel on Instagram and YouTube, you would know a little bit more about it. But can you tell us about your business and how that worked? Was this pre-university? Is this what you ended up taking off with your first year, or how is this coming about?
Well, I have this behind of me. If you pay close attention, there is a mannequin wearing a hoodie, and there is a business I possess. It's called Ascent. It's a clothing brand I developed around the whole concept. It's a letter A. My name is Angel, so it starts with A. You can see where it was going. But I really wanted to resonate with the whole corporate identity thingy. I've always believed in representing things through symbols. So the idea of giving a letter a deeper message was something I was very passionate about. The brand is called Ascent, and it goes by the whole idea of being a better person and exceeding expectations and trying to ascend, trying to be better. And that's kind of my thing. That takes some of my time, but it's a fun little project, especially because it's combined with passion, so it never really feels like a hassle. It's just something that I get to enjoy. We have a little web shop, ascentmovement.com. Go buy your merch. But yeah, it's a fantastic little group.
Very cool. Did you receive any support as you were starting your business, or how has what you've been studying kind of supported your project, I guess? Yeah.
On a way,
Influence.
they've kind of gone hand by hand because you also learn to identify things with examples. So if you're learning accounting and then you see the supply and the this, and you start thinking, I also have a supply. This is how it works. You start relating to these things. I think many people kind of have an idea on how a business may work. However, school learns to teach you the concepts and names as you're supposed to do, as how to do things correctly. Think of it that way. So it's very useful. It's very nice, and yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool.
Great. And
Yeah.
there's one question I would like to ask you, Angel. Like, what's the biggest tip of advice that you would like to give someone who's currently based somewhere in Latin America and is considering moving abroad for his studies, like whether it be the Netherlands or Europe or even another other continent? Like, from an international student's perspective, what's the one thing that you have wanted to know before you went, which you didn't know?
The one thing I wanted to know before I went, I think the biggest thing is overall research, like researching. Well, the thing is, because you told me only one thing, so research, because it's but the country you're going, research the opportunities you have. Well, financially, I don't know how people do with, different tuitions have different prices, but looking up if there is scholarships available, looking up what are deadlines for everything, looking up if you can get the paperwork you may need on time, because sometimes you need something that's non-dependent on you. Maybe you need to get a new passport, and then passports are going to take 4 months, deadline is 1 week, then you're going to have a problem, so researching everything is maybe the tip that can make it or break it. Literally being prepared makes the whole difference. I was this close to a lot of times not making it, and I was like, oh, I should have done this before. So that's the one tip. And with research, it's also, I think that school, it would kind of appear as if they make it difficult for you to find information, but they really don't. They are very nice. It's just there's so many layers to so many different topics, and sometimes finding what you may need for your visa is in a different website than what you may need for, I don't know, entering school. So it's and different than what you may need for the scholarships. So it's everything kind of goes hand by hand, but not everything's in the same place. So yeah, maybe taking your time and treating it as if it was homework, literally. Yeah. Sorry, bro. You asked me for one thing, so that's that thing.
That's good advice. Yeah.
What do you guys
I'm
think?
kind of curious. Oh, I was kind of curious too. Like, I think often part of the research is learning more about the school you're interested in and trying to figure out what they're like and if it's a good fit for you. And something that I often find very difficult to research is like kind of what the vibe of a school is like, or like what's the social life like what are people like? I mean, obviously all of these are questions that are like generalizing. Like I'm sure you can find so many different things, but I guess how would you describe kind of your school and the social life? Yeah, the
The
vibe.
whole experience.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think it's a very complete experience. It's definitely something that gets you out of your comfort zone because, of course, coming from a place where you get used to speaking your mother tongue and the way you treat people, huge culture shock is also how the people react. The European citizens, Dutch people may have different manners, different approaches to things. Mexicans were very touchy. We like hugging. We like doing this. And here maybe people are more relaxed. People go more far away. Dutch people are more direct. So also getting to know that is a difference. In my experience, I've dealt with it pretty good. I think I'm just myself. But the school is very fun. I have no doubt that I did the right choice with my study. Of course, there's moments that I've hated it and I want to drop out because it's so difficult. But you pass your exams and then it's all worth it. But no, overall, it's a very nice experience. And living in Amsterdam, it's such an amazing place. Every now and then I just think of how many people would want to go in vacation here. And then I get to live here and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is a dream. And yeah, you just walk around, see the canals, explore, uh, enjoy the different seasons. That's something we don't really get to see in Mexico here. It snowed last year. Snow is fun. Uh, that sort of thing, it's different, but it's cool. It's nice. It's a graceful experience. Wonderful. Some would say fantastic. But yeah.
Wow.
And if I
No,
may
you
add
gave
to
some.
that,
Well, I have a question from our Instagram audience here, which I thought was kind of fun. And you gave some good examples, so that's why I wanted to follow up with this. But it was, what are Dutch people / students like compared to Mexican people students? You talked about greetings. You talked about directness. Is there anything else that should really be prepared for?
Dutch students versus Mexican students. I think studying here in Netherlands, yeah, being prepared, doing a lot. It's a lot of homework. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of. I got used to my exams being like exams in Mexico were maybe of one topic or two topics. Here, an exam maybe of 10 topics. So be strict with deadlines. Don't try to get away with. I think it's very common in place like Latin America to try to do minimum effort, maximum results. And that may not work here. Here you cannot really slack, you cannot be lazy, you cannot do homework 1 hour before school. Here you may have to do it 2 hours before. Now okay. You may have to do it a day before. And oh, well, of course, keeping time, working hard. Working hard is a big difference. Yeah, Dutch students are more hardworking, I think, than, well, not than Mexicans, but what I'm trying to say, it's more difficult.
And Jose, I mean, was that part of your adaptation too? I mean, was university, I think it's always hard with the classes that you take and the choices that you're making. But I mean, what was kind of your transition, or was it more expected just because your schooling had been like that the entire time growing up?
Yeah, to be honest, for me, it was rather a smooth transition. It was a bit more busy than high school and was a bit more intense as well. And for me, the biggest difference was that I studied in Dutch during high school, and then when I transferred to university, I started to studying in English. So for me, that was the biggest. That was the biggest thing that I really needed to get used to. But I would say overall, it was quite a smooth ride. I just quickly would like to add to what Angel said before, because Alina, I think it's a really good question. Like, how do you get to know a school, right? Because studying international business could be basically you can do it anywhere across the globe. But how do you make sure that you pick a university that really suits your personality, where you can feel at home? And of course, for local students, it's easy. You'll go to an open day, you feel the vibe, and you can assess it. But for international students, if you're located abroad, especially in South America, you're not going to fly in for one morning. That doesn't work. So I would say have a look at social media channels, especially due to the pandemic. I've seen that quite a lot of universities have been accelerating their digital presence. So have a look at social media channels. Have a look at YouTube channels, Instagram. Some are also active on Facebook. Personally, we're not really active on Facebook anymore, more Instagram and YouTube. But have a look at those channels because there's some testimonials from students, lecturers, alumni, but also about the modules. So it really gives you a bit of a more personal touch. So it's another tip or advice I would like to share.
Good.
Very
Great
nice.
tip. I was curious too. I mean, talking about this kind of new academic challenge, having your exams, all these things. Were there resources or some kind of support? Like, could you go up to a lecturer and be like, I didn't understand this. Like, what do you have to kind of just do on your own? And what is there? So where can you find support? How independent is? Yeah, I guess.
Who's gonna answer this? What up?
Angel first, and then Jose, if you want to add anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Deal. Resources. You know what? School. Something I really like and something that blew my mind and I wish I had before was Brightspace. Brightspace is, you guys of course know it, but maybe some people are not familiar. Brightspace is a platform that the school utilizes to upload. They upload the slides that maybe you saw in school. They upload the content. They upload assignments. Everything that you can kind of refer to, I could always find it on Brightspace. It was a recurrent thing. It's just like a platform, It's like a small thing that has everything you may need. That is absolutely fantastic. That changed the way I study. That changed the way I learned. That's top. And always, of course, if you're missing something, you can reach out to your teachers. Most of the teachers, they're very cool. They are the lecturers, they are very nice people, So you can always send them an email and say, hey, sir, how do I do this? How do I do that? Could you give me a hand? And most of the times they will reply. And if they ever not reply, you can always, of course, approach them in school or in a class or in anything. In addition to making use of your colleagues, making use of your classmates, making use of having a group of people, you can always ask them, like, hey, guys, anyone knows when is this deadline? And the chance is very high that someone is going to help you out there. I think also something that is very important for international students is finding out groups of classes. For example, I found a Facebook group of AMSIV 2021 to say something, but like you find a group of individuals that are studying in the same field, in the same area, and then you can relate to them. You can go out to them. Maybe, what do you know? Maybe someone can help you out with something that you're stuck. It's always useful to find someone in a similar position to not feel alone, to not struggle by yourself. There's always someone that can relate to your problems, and yeah, that's top tier.
Awesome.
Yes, spot on. It's very concise, well said. I would say lecturers won't walk up to you and will check with you individually if you get it. So proactivity is definitely required. So if you don't understand something, then of course you would need to take the initiative and you would need to be the one who walks up to the lecturer. But yeah, overall lecturers are really helpful. And even if you see them on the hallway, because our so the Amsterdam School of International Business is located on one floor in a building that's being shared with some Dutch programs. So it felt quite small to me. So whenever I would walk around, I would see my lecturers. Lecturers are also fine with you just walking in if they're not teaching. And yeah, overall, it was a really pleasant experience, and they're definitely helpful in my experience.
Amazing. Great, great to hear. Actually, I do have one more question too. In terms of your classes, um, maybe Angel, if you want to go for this, which number of classes are like part of the career you're choosing, right? Like international business, you have to take this and this, and how many do you get to choose? Do you get to choose any? How do you build your course schedule? Yeah.
There's layers to this. Something that I actually also may add that I like of the school here, and that is a huge difference from school in Mexico, like university or whatever. In Mexico, you build most of your schedule. Like you have to enter online and register to your classes, and then there's a limited amount for it. If you didn't make it in time, you have to wait until next semester. There's people who their degrees of 4 years get transformed into 6 or 7 because they really cannot get into the class they need. And something that the Netherlands, or at least Amsterdam, has done amazing is that they just set it up for you. It's perfect. Each block you get new classes. However, there is of course electives. On the first year, you cannot choose anything. You can choose extra classes. You can enter an honors program, which I did, which is a fun activity, and then that you have more options. You get to choose. You can also choose to take Dutch. That's the only thing you can choose. But then on the second year, there is a whole list of electives. I currently have per block 5 subjects, and one of them is an elective. And then the next block, the same, like only one subject I could choose. And yeah, that is very important because then there's also a lot of options. You can choose to follow a language if that's what you desire, but also enter some of the programs that school offers only for you. Personally, I like those more because a language I could learn outside, a language I could learn anywhere, in particular classes. And then the electives that school offer are so unique and so specific that it's so convenient. It's so nice. It fits better with the study, it makes it more manageable, I think.
Oh,
But
what did
yeah.
you choose? I'm curious now.
I'm currently in creativity and innovation in business. That's the name of my elective. It's a pretty nice elective. We're working on some projects. The homework is very fun, stuff like that. Like it doesn't feel like a horrible class that you hate and you take notes and you're like, no, this is something fun. It's something that you in the end you chose yourself, so you might as well like it. And but there was many options. You could enter management in a globalized economy. You could learn Chinese. You could learn Spanish, stuff like that. There's options to suit everyone, and that is very nice, I think.
Congratulations on the honors program too. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. I should
Thank you.
totally know this, but are you in the 3-year or the 4-year program?
In the K or in the K? What?
In the in the 3-year or the 4-year degree?
I'm in the 4-year degree. Is there a 3-year degree? I didn't even know this existed. Yeah, I'm in the in the 4-year degree, and I'm currently in my second year. And last year I took honors. This year I'm also in honors. I like the honors. Honors is fun. It's a fun thing to do. Last year's honors, I entered. It was called Entrepreneurship, Philosophy, and the Arts, and I thought it was an amazing program. I enjoyed every second of it. The meetings were very long, but very, topics that I resonate with a lot. And this year, I'm in something in my honors. It's called All About the Money, and it's also a very fun, dynamic experience. I think honors program can add a lot to your study experience because it's such a specific scope, and it's something that you choose yourself that it can add to your formation, your professional development. It's a little skill or a little piece of knowledge that you may like, but because you choose it, it's something that you want yourself. So, it never hurts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Are
Thank you.
those honors classes like every week? Like, is it like a class every week, or how does
It
it work?
depends on the program. Most of them are yes every week, but for example, the one I'm this year, it's every other week. So it's 1 week
Mm.
yes, 1 week no. And they're all dependent. Sometimes your honors choice might depend on your schedule because, as I told before, you cannot choose your schedule. You cannot choose, hey, I want classes on Tuesday. They just tell you, hey, Tuesday you have this class. So sometimes some honors programs are only available at a time that may inter, yeah, be in the way with another class you have, and then you cannot choose it. You have to wait a little bit. But that's maybe one of the cool things of having so many options, that there's always something that fits in. So that is cool.
Awesome.
All part of the research involved in the process. Well, Alina, I don't know if you have any specific questions. I think we covered a lot. Very interesting scoop on everything. I think for
Yeah.
both of you, my lasting question would be if there's anything you want to say to somebody who's still thinking, should I apply? Is the Netherlands for me? Is going to Amsterdam for me? Is this specific university even for me? What would you tell them right now?
I would say the most important is do your research because there's so much out there. Do your research in terms of country, do your research in terms of, I don't know, like what are the close ties, for example, with corporates, with the business life, as well as with alumni. Do your research in terms of the programs, because there are different programs with all different possibilities. So in a nutshell, yeah, research and check out open days, virtual open days. I mean, especially now because of the pandemic and now that we got used to working online, take advantage of the fact that most programs also offer an online open day. Yeah,
I agree. I agree with what you say. Definitely. There's also flyers. I remember there was like a huge flyer of like 5 pages or something that I saw before, and well, before choosing this career, this subject, this degree, and it included what we were gonna be learning each year, how long it was gonna be on the first year, what do you see on the second year, what do you see, stuff like that. It kind of gives you some insight, like a description of what's up, what skills are you going to be learning, and seeing within yourself if you resonate with that, if that's what you want for your life. In the end, all this is very subjective, but there is always a choice, there is always a place. I can definitely vouch for the Netherlands as being a great place to come study. I think for the population of Mexico, it's a very common choice to go to other places. When it comes to Europe, many people actually choose Germany. In Mexico, at least that was my experience. And some people leave out the Netherlands, and because they leave it out, it leads to more scholarships available. More, there's it's more of a chill process, and then it's also a very, very nice experience. The people here are great. Everyone's open-minded. It can change your view on the world, your view on life, your view on everything,
Mm.
and it can help you develop and grow as a person. So yeah, fantastic experience. Netherlands, 10 out of 10.
So cool.
Great. Thank you, Angel. Thank you,
Thanks for
Jose.
taking the time.
No
My
problem.
pleasure.
We learned so much.
Of course.
Yes, and if you are totally open for questions, I mean, we can definitely tell people to follow you on social media. Same thing goes for you, Jose, because I
Of
saw that
course.
even your account also reposted the story too. So I was like, okay, they're alive. They can just ask their questions there directly.
Yes, feel free to reach out to us. Have a great rest of the day or evening or night, depending on where you're located. And yeah, hopefully you found it interesting. Kristen, Alina, is there something else you would like to close with?
I think we're good. We
Yeah.
stay for part 2,
Yeah.
right? We have that
Yes.
coming up
Yeah.
next week. Talking
Yeah.
about all that
Yeah.
post-grad goodness.
Yeah.